Hello listeners, Mark here with a new SLP short. It's going to be just my voice this time, as it's time to recap some of the more notable stats from the Super League regular season, going team by team from the bottom up. So that means the first SLP regular season stat attack focuses on bottom place side, Widnes Vikings. It probably isn't a surprise to Vikings fans to learn that they've used more players than anyone else in the Super League this year, 38. They've also done that with the lowest average player age, below 24 years old. They were one of only two sides to have no players who played at least 22 games, along with Hull FC being the other. Widnes with the lowest try scorers was 65, not surprising for the bottom side. With only 3 wins too, Kristen Inu was their top try scorer with only 6. They were the only side whose top try scorer hasn't made it to double figures. Joe Miller had 11 try assists, meaning he set up 1 in 6 of their tries. As well as scoring the fewest tries, they conceded the most. They aren't surprising numbers though for a bottom place side, but Widnes made the most tackles as a team and also missed the most tackles as a team. They gave up the most metres, whilst also allowing the worst average gain. Hep Cahill was their only player to average over 100 metres per game, making 114 per game on average in the unfortunately low 9 games he played in. He also averaged more tackles per game than any other Viking, making 40 successful tackles in each game he played. He was the only player in the league to make that particular stat double of averaging 40 or more tackles and 100 or more metres per game played. Despite playing only 10 games, Chris Houston gave away the most penalties in the regular season with 23. That was, and also league worst, 2.3 penalties conceded per game. 11th place Salford are the next side to get the SLP regular season stat attack treatment. Salford have used only 29 players, which is the 5th least in the league, but they've used everyone they could this year, with the only other players who had squad numbers given that didn't feature were long-term injured duo Chris Brining and Manu Vativai. They didn't use a single teenager, one of only 2 sides to do it this season, the other being St Helens, who used Matty Costello just after he turned 20. Junior Sow was the only Salford man to play in all 23 rounds. He was also their top meter maker this year. Their most threatening regular player this year was Niall Evalds, who averaged almost 1 try or 1 try assist per game. It's a shame for them they couldn't keep Gareth O'Brien longer or get Jackson Hastings in sooner, as those two averaged a try or an assist input more than once per game they played. Hastings, on his very small sample size of 1 game, looked a big threat. His 5 total carries had 11.2 metres per carry average gain, tackle bust on 80% of his carries, a clean break on 20% of his carries, and an offload on 60% of his carries. Those numbers led the way in each category. If he can replicate that regularly over the qualifiers, that offers hope for Salford fans. Super League newbie Daryl Alferts was the only player for Salford to average over 100 metres a game, making on average 120 metres per game in his 13 Super League appearances. They faced the most carries and the most attacking kicks of any side in the regular season, so it's a slight well done to them that they were only the 3rd worst offence. Salford were involved in the fewest close games this regular season. Only 1 game, a defeat to Wakefield in round 2, was decided by a winning margin of 1 score or less, and they had no draws. Hull Kingston Rovers finished the regular season 10th. That doesn't mean they don't have some intriguing stat highlights to cover though in their SLP regular season stat attack. The Rovers used the 2nd highest number of players in Super League this year with 36. Although they played the youngest player this year in 18-year-old Elliot Wallace, they averaged the 2nd oldest side in Super League with an average player age over 27 years of age. A ban for the last round meant Mossy Massot couldn't play in all 23 games. He featured 22 times along with Maurice Blair and Super League rookie Chris Atkin. Ryan Shaw ended up their top try scorer with 11. Adam Quinlan was just behind on 10 tries. He was top assist maker with 12. One of 3 men, along with Junior Vaivai and Danny Maguire, to have a try or an assist input of 1 per game or more. The Robins had the lowest average gain with 6.6 metres per carry. Despite that, and having the 4th fewest amount of tries, they had the 3rd most clean breaks in the league, behind only St Helens and Wigan. Some positive stats for Rovers were the highest numbers of 40-20s with 5 and the best overall kicking success rate with 84% of their attempts at goal going through the sticks. They forced more errors than any other side as well, 287. As they ended in the bottom four, we know that it wasn't all good for them. They had the fewest offloads, 195. They had the worst team tackle success rate, down at 91%. And they gave up the most breaks, 159. Another notable number was that Hull KR made the most dummy half runs, 593, which may be linked to them getting tackled by opposition markers more than anyone else. Rovers were involved in the most blowout games this year. 12 of the 23 games they played in were decided by more than a 3-score winning margin. 7 of those were defeats and 5 of those were wins. It's Leeds' turn now to get the SLP regular season stat attack treatment. Leeds' Richie Myler ended the season with the most try assists, 23 in the regular season. Myler also put in more attacking kicks than any other player during the regular season with 129. His game management, vision and awareness may have come under question for some, but the stats show he was a positive presence in this bottom 4 Leeds side. Leeds also had some hard-working leaders in their ranks. Brad Singleton and Stevie Ward were 1 and 2 in marker tackles per game with 9.1 and 8.8 respectively. Ward and Jamie Jones-Buchanan were also 5th and 6th in total tackles per game with 39 per game. The Rhinos had the top 5 players had 3 of the top 5 players in meters per game. Luke Briscoe showed signs of why Leeds brought him back in with 145 per game. Ryan Hall averaged 142 per game in his final Super League season. Mitch Garber averaged 136 per game. A key number that is a good indicator of why Leeds ended up in the bottom 4. They made more handling errors in the regular season than anyone else, 290. It's possible that part of that error count was linked to them also having the most offloads in the league with 306. They weren't afraid to chance their arm, but with that comes an element of risk of errors too. They also allowed the second most carries, second most meters and second most breaks in the league. Adam Cuthbertson was still one of the most prolific offloaders in the game. He made an average of 2.5 successful offloads a game, 3rd best in the league. Leeds were involved in the most close games this season. 11 of their games ended in either a draw or a winning margin of less than 6 points. There were 2 draws, 4 close wins and 4 close defeats. The SLP regular season stat attack moves into the top 8 now as we look at the Catalan Dragons. Les Dracs didn't lead the way in any of the team stats, but they were second in attacking kicks made, showing they did find a way to get into attacking positions consistently. They also faced the second fewest attacking kicks made against them. They were, though, one of only 2 teams not to kick a 40-20. Leeds were the other. It doesn't seem too difficult to pick out who did the attacking kicks for Catalan. Whoever played scrum half for them, really. Their scrum half had the highest kicks per game of any position for any team, 6 per game. When that scrum half was Josh Drinkwater, it was a league-high 7.4 attacking kicks per game. Lucas Albert had the second highest attacking kicks per game average in the league with 6.8. One thing Catalans fans didn't see much of this year was running from dummy half. The Dragons themselves made the second least dummy half runs, and the side also had the fewest dummy half runs made against them too. They didn't lack dynamic dummy half play though, as hooker Michael McAlorum had the second most assists in the side and the second most assists by any hooker in the league, with 12. An explanation why they struggled through the first half of the year might be that they ended up conceding the second most penalties in the regular season and had the second worst overall tackle success rate. An explanation why they made the top 8 through the second half of the regular season was signing Josh Drinkwater. In his 11 regular season games, he had 8 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats. His 73% win success was the best by any Dragon. His 1.3 try assists per game was the best of any player in Super League this year. Wakefield Trinity are the next side to get the SLP regular season stat attack treatment. Wakefield used the joint lowest number of players regular season, only needing 25. Numbers also suggest they were able to put their first choice side out more than anyone else, with an average shirt number used of 11.3, the lowest in the league. An average of 9 would mean picking squad numbers 1 to 17 every game, so that shows you how close they were to that. It may take some by surprise that Trin ended the regular season with the second most points and tries scored, despite finishing down in 7th. Their 2 main wingers finished joint 2nd and 4th in the regular season. Tom Johnston scored 17 tries, whilst Ben Jones-Bishop scored 16. They were the top try-scoring wingers in the league, along with Barita Ferramo of Hull FC, who also scored 16. Johnston also made more clean breaks than any other player in the league, with 32. Ben Jones-Bishop did have the unfortunate stat, though, of making the most regular season errors, with 36. Another positive attacking result was that they were second highest in tackle busts as a team. David Fafita was third individually and Reece Lim fourth. They were, though, the lowest in attacking kicks made. Something that helped them up the field was being the side in the regular season that was awarded the most penalties in the league, getting 205 whistles blown in their favour. It also helped that their top assist maker, Jacob Miller, with a third best in the league of 20 assists, played in all 23 games. In defence, they gave up the most 40-20s, but as a positive, they allowed the fewest offloads in the league. To complete some outstanding stats for their backline, centre Bill Tupu made the most metres in the regular season with 3,126. Along with Miller, Tupu also played in all 23 regular season games. The Black and Whites of Hull FC are next up on the slate for the SLP regular season stat attack. Barita Ferramo was a top 5 try scorer with 16 from 19 in his first regular season. He might have cracked 20 if he could stop being so dirty. He was one of only 2 players, the other being Chris Houston, who conceded the most penalties, to see both a yellow card and a red card in the Super League regular season. Missing 7 games prevented Danny Bothways Yermate Houghton from being the regular season top tackler, but he did average the most tackles per game with 47, 6 more than his closest competitor James Roby. Houghton was also third in marker tackles per game. Young Jez Litton, with an 100% win success rate from 3 games, went the second most games without a league defeat this year of all regular season players, so he maybe was their lucky charm and could have played a little bit more. Returning Hull FC hero Kurt Gieman, though, he had the worst errors per game number in the league. He made 4 in his 1 game against Hull KR at Magic Weekend. The Black and Whites did win that game, though, and 1 game is a very small sample size, so we should probably let him off. Hull FC gave up the second highest average gain. I'm not sure if this is a link stat to that one, but it may be, as they made the fewest marker tackles of all sides in the regular season. A big positive that Lee Radford might have been pleased with about Hull FC is that they conceded the fewest penalties across the 23 rounds. It's been a regular season of 2 halves for Huddersfield, and it's time to find out how that pans out on the numbers in their SLP regular season stat attack. There's a lot of stats that make it seem remarkable that the Giants finished 5th in the regular season and are the best placed side on the outer with a shot at the 4. After 13 rounds, they were 12th in the table. They ended the regular season on minus 202 points difference with the second worst defensive record in the league. They made the fewest metres, fewest clean breaks and fewest successful offloads of any side over those 23 regular season rounds. They conceded more penalties than any other side in the league. It felt like a run of penalties was usually rounded off by Cruz Lehman getting sin-binned for persistent offending, although he only actually had 2 Super League yellow cards, but that was the joint most, with 10 other players also getting 2 yellow cards. On a positive, Giants fans saw their side make the second fewest handling errors and the second most handling errors forced from opponents. Last year, they had more players who played in every regular season round than any side. This year, though, they had no player who made the squad for every round. They did have 4 players who played in 22 rounds, although only Widnes and Hull KR used more players over the course of the regular season. Youth coming through should be there to provide great optimism for Giants fans. 19-year-olds Jake Wardle and Ollie Russell had 100% and 75% win success rates, respectively, although only from 2 and 4 games, respectively. Wardle, in his 2 games, also bagged 2 tries and 2 assists. Only Ben Barber had a better tries plus assists per game strike rate than young Wardle. 20-year-old prop Matty English didn't get any tries or assists so far, but he's had a 70% win rate from his 10 games. And 21-year-old winger Darnell McIntosh was top try scorer in the Giants' regular season with 12 from 17 games. The Giants were the only side not to have a blowout win, which is a win of more than 3 score margin this season. They had the lowest average margin of victory, 9 points, and the highest average margin of defeat, 27 points. The SLP regular season stat attack moves into the top 4 now as we move on to the Warrington Wolves. As a team, no one made fewer tackles than Warrington in the regular season. They made nearly 800 fewer than near rivals Widnes, who made